Welcome to the App in Top Mobile App Marketing Podcast.
For so many mobile app developers, it's an all-or-nothing battle out there in the App Store.
This App in Top podcast is your mobile app marketing advantage.
Let's get that new app of yours moving to the top.
This is the App in Top Mobile App Marketing Podcast.
And now your host, Michael Bauer.
Welcome. The App in Top Mobile Podcast, episode number 1. This podcast produced by appintop.com. You can find the daily blog at appintop.com. Also, track us down on facebook.com/appintop. And, of course, on Twitter at appintop_com. Kind of a breath of fresh air if you're a developer or getting into the development world for apps. And you're trying to figure out exactly what it is that I'm supposed to be doing here as far as getting success. How am I defining success? Does it mean the overall dollar value that I've got coming in? Does it mean how many eyeballs are actually seeing my product? The download version of that? All of those answers will come into play for you, and we're going to give you some examples of things that you can do to help that business along in just a second. My first guest, and the first guest here on the first podcast, will join us in just a second. He had this to say at the recent App Promotion Summit in Berlin.
From a developer's point of view, and in my own opinion, the Apple App Store as well as the Google Play Store is similar to the Panama Channel. If you're owner of a cargo ship, you want to reach your certain destination, you have to go through it. If you're a mobile developer and you want to reach your mobile audience, your users, you have to go through it as well. It's a kind of bottleneck on one hand. It's very competitive. It's expensive to get through. So owners of cargo ships, as well as mobile developers, have to have a look on alternative bypasses, other ways to get through the final destination or the users, and that's when alternative app stores come into play.
He's going to be our tour guide, sort of our Indiana Jones on the explorer world of mobile apps here. He's the mobile app marketing expert, founder of Dynamo Partners. Please welcome here to the App and Top Mobile Marketing Podcast, Stefan Bielau. Stefan, now, as I call you the tour guide here, when we're talking about the Panama Canal you were talking about there and how the big cargo ships are going through, how important is it right now, if you're an app developer, to have your app on iTunes and Google Play? Is it imperative that you're there?
Well, it's the essentials, Michael. There is no other way at the moment to at least achieve a certain kind of success without using Apple App Store and Android Google Play Store. So it's the ultimate destination, keeping it to the picture of being the tour guide here.
Yes.
It's the ultimate destination, obviously. The most of the users obviously are using it, are used to look for apps in the original app stores. But there are certain ways to reach out to an extended base of users, to get an edge over competition, to build on top of that kind of download volume you generate in the original stores. And this is our topic of today, obviously, are the alternative app stores.
Now, with the alternative app stores, what do you think is probably the most common or one of the most common misconceptions that either a new coming developer or somebody who's saying to themselves, wow, I've had this app out for a little bit of time and I'm not reaching the success or what I define as success in places like iTunes or Google Play. What's the biggest misconception they have in regards to these alternative app stores?
Obviously, every developer who starts thinking or reading or researching about it probably get swamped with a lot of names and a lot of ways and channels to put his app in such stores. So the biggest challenge, obviously, is to set priorities and get focus right. Where to start? What are the stores you should distribute? And that usually breaks down either to go achieve ultimate mass, then you have to figure out, which are the largest ones, or you are already educated in a sense that you understood where your audience is at in terms of regions or countries, then you should prioritize those who have the biggest footprint in those respective countries, obviously.
Stefan, we're talking with Stefan Bielau. He is the mobile app marketing expert, founder of Dynamo Partners, joins us here on the App and Top mobile app marketing podcast. Do you find that a lot of today's developers, at least the ones that you're working with or are associating with, talking to, they know about these alternative apps locations, these hubs, if you will, that are outside of the iTunes and Google Play? Are they currently using them for downloads, or is this something that comes as news to them?
It always depends. If you look at those players and developers or publishers, especially in the gaming environment, in the gaming, mobile gaming industry, they come from a background of the old Java Symbian days, where they were distributing and publishing already through such channels, and the complexity was already there because
Right.
the operators and store providers already had platforms to sell and distribute their Java apps. So they're well aware, about the traction you can get there, how the deal sets usually turn out, and where to look for. If you're a developer, let's say from a rather younger generation, 2, 3, 4 years in the game, so far, as we spoke before, Apple App Store, Google Play are the first touch point for you. Then probably you are maybe aware of some local players in your respective country, or you've spoke at conferences about such things, and people were pointing to one or two of the stores they know. I think the larger developers, the bigger developers, and the ones with obviously a lot of traffic already in the original stores are now realizing that they have to go the extra mile, that they have to fight off competition, and in their portfolio of marketing tactics, the stores play those alternate stores play an important role. So they're figuring out that is a way to go once again. The younger ones, speaking about challenges, the smaller ones, or the ones who are not for that long in the game, usually shy away a little bit because they haven't tried yet.
Right.
So they don't know numbers. They don't know the way of estimating the outcome of it. On the other hand, it adds complexity and requires extra resources internally to go in those stores. So they have to figure out and answer those questions related to those two topics to move on. But as soon as they realize that the competition is really, as I said at the conference, is so fierce at the moment, with 1.2 million live applications available globally, and the marketing and acquisition costs on the rise, you have to look for alternatives. You have to look for more efficient ways of promoting your application, and they will realize that those stores can have an impact on their overall performance.
Stefan, what are other countries that alternative app stores do well, that they're strong, that they're thriving in right now?
Asia obviously comes first to everyone's mind, in particular China. There are some very, very, very interesting numbers when you have a look on the overall download volume in China, especially on the Android platform. Android currently drives or is available on around about 300 million Chinese devices.
Okay, so when you get the device, it's literally right there on the phone. It's one of the first things you go to.
Well, the operating system of Android is distributed on 300 million roundabout devices in China available.
Okay.
So then the question comes in: what is the store for those 300 million devices? And here it gets interesting. The amount of download volume coming through Google Play in China, right, is less than 6%. If you look at the monthly download volume.
Really?
Yes. We're talking about a significant amount of players in China generating more than 80% of the overall monthly download volume for Android devices. And those are, in particular, very, very strong destinations for developers going into China, distributing an Android application. So you should make yourself familiar. Asia is on one side a very interesting market, but still, if you look at something like, I'm German. In Germany, we have a strong player since a couple of years, already built up an audience of around about 10 million unique users in 8 European countries. Goes by the name of Android Pit.
Okay.
It's a store environment which has a mixture of, hardware device reviews, obviously a strong take on the app review side. So editorial part is there. Plus they are hosting their own app store for Android applications. And as a developer, it's really, really interesting because then you can target certain countries and user specifics on the device level, the same way you can do on Google Play. But here comes the interesting part. If you want to accelerate your growth and distribution in those countries via Android Pit, you basically simply reach out to them and start, promoting your app through paid promotion. They have newsletters in place. They have placements on their websites. They have mobile destinations, mobile web, mobile applications. They can run push notifications within their user base of, as I said, 10 million uniques. So you find players like this when you look into when you enter Europe. You have someone like, let me check, as far as I remember, a rather smaller country like Sri Lanka, back to Asia.
Yeah.
20 million people living there, but the smartphone sales growth, and this is mainly Android, is 100% quarter over quarter.
Wow.
Huge acceleration in smartphone usage and penetration. And then you have players like the local number one operator, which is Airtel. They have currently around about 500,000 smartphone users. And if you want to tap into the market, because either your audience is there or you have a specific offering for users in Sri Lanka, or you have an indication already from your Google Play distribution that a certain amount of user is coming from this country, and you want to figure out, okay, what else can I do on a localized level? Then you talk to Airtel and their alternative app store environment, and you can reach out to 500,000 Android users in the country.
Wow. So the numbers,
next to those people.
You talk about the numbers there, and it seems sort of overwhelming when you talk about how what success you may feel like you're seeing or not seeing when you're talking about something like iTunes or when you're talking about Google Play, Amazon, any in that kind of realm. The volumes are there. These people are using those alternative stores. Are these diehard gamers that are using these stores? Is it something that is sort of country specific where they're not either allowed to or don't have access to some of these bigger stores where they are so heavily populated?
No. For example, coming back to China, looking back, so Chinese players, Chinese smartphone users in particular, Chinese audiences like to gamble a lot. They like games in particular. So obviously the amount of the percentage of downloads tends to be higher in the game categories than in other markets. I wouldn't say that any specific category sticks out significantly in terms of generating much more eyeballs or much more downloads. It depends on the country, but the availability of tools, security apps, entertainment apps, health-related fitness apps, basically is all over the same. So you have to really look at market specifics in terms of download volume in categories. Distimo is a great source for those who are listening. Company called Distimo, Dutch company, great analytics tool, but also gives you great free insights into such specific questions, figuring out what category is the most prominent, for example, in South American markets or in, Australia versus the US, stuff like that. So based on this, you should evaluate, you should answer all those questions initially before actually entering such alternative stores to really nail it down to answering, is the application you provide, the solution, the content, the idea, targeting local users with certain specifics? A. B, do you have a localized approach in terms of, the app is translated, the payment systems or the monetization models are appropriate to the market conditions? Is your marketing collateral localized? And do you have, apart from those alternative app stores, other channels to, accelerate growth there? And then, you can justify moving forward, put the resources in place, manpower, budget, and take it from there.
Here's what I want to do. I'll take a quick break here, Stefan. When we come back, I want to find out if there's any kinds of issues at all with content, and if there are restrictions on content for each of these kinds of markets where you would find out that kind of information. And then secondarily, possibly the one thing that alternative app stores can do to help when it comes to a relative new developer. That's all coming up in seconds here on the App in Top mobile app marketing podcast, brought to you by appintop.com. This podcast is produced with support from App in Top, an automated mobile app marketing platform in App Store and Google Play. This is the App in Top mobile app marketing podcast. I'm Mike Bauer. We are joined by mobile app marketing expert, founder of Dynamo Partners, and our tour guide through these alternative app stores. Stefan Bielau joins us here. Now, Stefan, you were talking earlier in regards to the alternative markets, and a lot of them in countries that maybe a developer, as they're looking at these kinds of alternative app stores, is there restrictions that they need to look out for? Where would they find these kinds of things? If they go to this app market, this app store, can they look at and see what restrictions may be involved? Say they're doing some sort of a gambling app like you were talking about, or perhaps even some sort of erotic apps and the similar. Are there concerns within certain markets, Sri Lanka and others, where you would need to find out where the limit is, or what the line in the sand may be?
Obviously everyone's nowadays talking about China and how big the market opportunity is, and obviously it is big. There are certain conditions you have to be aware of. First of all, in most of the cases, it's a local play. So you have to know the people in person most of the time. You have to rely on certain agencies who have access and publishers to those market players, enabling you in terms of access first. Second, what is also a specific play, obviously, are the conditions in terms of, what kind of things are allowed, restricted. So the key here is really to have this overview through a related partner, or a reliable partner, who can give you this access, and at the end of the day also advises you on those certain specific market conditions. And China and Japan as well are very, very unique markets, where you have to use those kind of local partners or agencies, service providers to move on. There are plenty out there. I don't want to point to some particular. They're all great. They're all growing at the moment, giving you access to these markets. But it's rather hard to build this, by yourself. As I said, it's at the end of the day, it requires an expertise, a certain access to people in the market to be successful.
Now, that brings up a good point here, Stefan, and I'm curious about that for these developers who are thinking about getting into alternative app stores. What is it? Is it a monetary guideline that sort of defines success? I have to believe that a lot of these developers are thinking, am I recouping the money that I've put into this product that I've created and the app that I've created here, be it a gambling app or whatever it is? And is it basically the monetary success that you're looking for, or should we, as app developers, be redefining success in some way?
Well, that's a good question. Obviously, everyone's, looking for the ROI of his marketing strategies and tactics. yes, it has to pay off. Otherwise, you're burning money through. So be honest to yourself. Have a good set of KPIs initially before starting doing any promotions, including those stores. How much it costs to localize, how much it costs to translate, how much does it cost to hire an agency or use a tool like Codango, which is a self-publishing platform. Disclaimer, I'm one of the business angels there, which gives you access to alternative markets. Basically, you upload it once, your metadata, your APK, choose the markets you want to publish, hit the button and you go live. They charge a subscription fee, obviously, for this, taking into account adjustment to your application in terms of using other payment tools or providers. Maybe there's a revenue share involved in order to get certain deals going. So make that calculation first and take into consideration the benchmarks you already gotten out of Google Play or iTunes when it comes to what you can expect in terms of usage, users, and spending behavior. On the other hand, if you're a brand, a global player, the Nikes, the Procter & Gamble's, the IKEAs, the Fords of this world, who are obviously also very successful and doing a lot on mobile, you should, just make sure, as you do in other marketing channels, may it be TV, print, offline, POS, that you have a visibility in those markets. As I said, certain local countries rely on those alternative markets. And if you are a big global brand with some local offers, you want to make sure that you are there and you want to make sure that you're present on one hand. On the other hand, you have a look on your trademark, your brand, that it's not damaged through whatever cyber squatting or someone misusing your brand in those stores, picking up the title or your icon and logo. I've seen a lot. So it's a balanced game there, but obviously the goals here are not direct monetization from the users, rather brand building and increase awareness for your brand.
These alternative app stores that we're talking about here, Stefan, how are they taking? And maybe it's just a percentage of. Are they taking as much commission? Are they taking less commission than some of the bigger names that we've discussed here so far?
It really depends, Michael. As I said, it ranges from a 80-20, 70-30 revenue share deal on one, and on the other hand, you get free. You find players who give you free distribution, hosting, and certain exposure, and they monetize basically from you in order to upsell, promotion campaigns, giving access to their established user base, stuff like that.
Okay, and with that, is there a clear-cut identification with some of them that are, available for sale when you're talking about the featured placement, the downloads, position on the top ratings? I know that I have a friend of mine who's been developing a couple of different apps based around basketball here in America, and with that, he's noticing that he can't seem to break through in certain areas, and I'd heard from somebody that you had to pay prices / advertising in order to make that stuff develop. Are you seeing that with these alternative stores as well?
Yes, I do. Just a few examples. Obviously, the most known one of those stores is Amazon.
Correct.
They started a couple of months ago, well, almost half a year ago in the States, to sell screen property to developers to, give them certain exposure to not only to the App Store users, but also extending this to the Kindle.
Correct. The benefits or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So there's stuff up for sale where you can, add some extra juice to your marketing campaign in this respective store. Another example would be Yandex, a major player in the Russian market. Very, very strong, very, very competitive when it comes to Android devices. They have a very nice offer called Yandex Retail, where they basically, put you up in their Yandex App Store as an Android developer, and then offer you a certain program, the Yandex Retail program, which works like that. They have they're integrated with 15,000 retail spaces and spots in Russia. Ranging from telecom booth up to regular supermarket chains. electronic retail shops. And in those shops, whenever you buy an Android phone, there's an offer from the sales guy saying, "Hey, you just bought a great smartphone, Android smartphone. Mind having some great apps on that phone immediately for free?" And obviously, that's a great value.
Sure.
And he immediately uploads a bundle of apps to that phone, and you as the developer, and that's very nice, you pay Yandex for this distribution only when the app actually gets activated. So It's not the old days where pre-installation you had to pay for, just being, on the phone or on the screen without the user noticing you or even never maybe opened the application.
Yeah,
Here, you just pay
being buried on their 5th page of applications, but not actually ever opening it.
Some of those folders, and then forgotten what you paid for. Here, it's the other way around. It's really competitive offer. You pay just for the activation of the actual app.
Stefan, I'm curious here. We're talking with Stefan Bielau, the mobile app marketing expert, founder of Dynamo Partners here. How important are reviews? I mean, there are some of the app stores that focus on the social factors in regards to the reviews for your apps. How important is that right now for an app developer? Like, I've seen legitimate businesses ruined by places like Yelp, or at least sufficiently cut back on the amount of business because of one bad Yelp review that they saw someplace. How important is the reviews when it comes to these app developments and some of the alternative app stores?
It is very much important. On one hand, obviously, you just gave the example of Yelp reviews. If a user comes into the store, the usual behavior tends to be either search, so he's looking up for a solution, a specific app's title, or any kind of gameplay he might be tempted to try. On the other hand, there's the search and discovery kind of behavior where you just get inspiration by feature sets, ranks, charts, and so on and so forth. If you end up with an application which has, 3.5, and less stars, there are so many choices around you in both ways: search as well as the discovery kind of findings in the charts, in the features. That the next best app is just a click away. So if you look then on the ranking algorithms in the store, which take into consideration since quite some time other factors than just download velocity, reviews play a vital role in your ranking position when it comes to competition in the store. So having good ratings, having a lot of ratings, helps you to perform better. In the eye of the user, obviously, at the end of the day, but also, keeping in mind that the algorithm and your performance in the ranking position is also based on your review performance. Mm-hmm. So that's an important play. There's an interesting thing going on. I was just yesterday, talking at another occasion about it. There are the topic of bots and mainly the misuse of bots to drive reviews. Yes. You basically buy a stack of reviews from some shady players out there, which we know them, but I would never try them because the stores are intelligent enough to recognize this in the meantime,
right? And
in the worst case, you're thrown out. And also, it's not sustainable. It's not the long-lasting approach. But from a developer's perspective, it becomes much more important to recognize such play in terms of competition. I've seen also cases where competitors are buying negative reviews to be fired at your app, and then you end up, and it's so hard to get back on a good review and rating position.
Yes.
When you have accumulated a certain amount of bad and negative reviews, so they're using it actually as a tool to fight you off. So here are 3 things I would recommend to take into consideration. Build as early as you can a good pool of reliable, loyal beta testers and heavy users of your own app that case something like this happens to you, you can at least fire back in a natural, organic way, having your troops, in the store, commenting, giving you good reviews in case you have someone using a bot network against you. That's one thing. Use tracking tool to be aware if something like this pops up somewhere globally. I mean, if you distribute in 150 countries, there are certain analytic tools who give you a review, what's going on in terms of, the amount you assemble during the day of reviews, the quality, is it increasing, is it decreasing? Just, get a little business intelligence there to be aware if someone's like trying to screw you over in such cases. And, there's also a way of flagging this to the stores if you see some misbehavior. But, be aware that such things exist. And because of the competitive landscape, there are shady players, there are bad developers out there misusing those things, not only for their own good, but also to, kick you somewhere where it really hurts.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, not only do I want to have fake people tell me how great my product is, I also want to have the same or more fake people tell everybody how bad your product is so I look even better. Here's what I want to do. I think that's definitively one concern that app developers have, especially when it comes to alternative app stores. I think there's another one that they may be concerned about. We'll address that coming up next. Plus, I'm going to have you, Stefan, I'm going to ask you right now to just think about it, but I'm going to have you help me come up with possibly 3 things that any app developer needs to have on their to-do list before they get involved with alternative app stores. That's when we come back here on the App in Top Mobile App Marketing Podcast with Stefan Bielau next. This podcast is produced with support from App in Top, an automated mobile app marketing platform in App Store and Google Play. This indeed is the App in Top Mobile App Marketing Podcast. I'm Michael Bauer, your host. Make sure you check out App in Top at Facebook, facebook.com/appintop. Also on Twitter at appintop_com, appintop_com. And check out our daily blog at appintop.com. Joining us, and he has been our tour guide through this entire world of alternative app stores, mobile app marketing expert, founder of Dynamo Partners, which is a boutique consulting firm specializing in mobile apps and services. He is Stefan Bielau. Now, Stefan, we've talked a second ago here in regards to one of the bigger concerns and having 3 things to look at when it came to reviews for and how important the reviews are for your apps, especially whether it's a mainstream store or alternative store. What about a concern that, and maybe it's an unwarranted concern, but a concern nonetheless that app developers have in regards to viruses at some of these lesser known, other country sort of alternative app stores? Is there a legitimate concern there that they have to be worried about?
I would say no. I mean, if you have a clean, straightforward app, your users, neither you, should worry about viruses and stuff. On the other hand, piracy is obviously always
always a concern.
Always a concern, part of the play there. So adjust, as I said before, adjust your monetization model according to local specifics. If you have a paid and premium application and you go to try to sell it, let's say, in African market or South American or Asian markets, it's rather unknown that you will be successful. If you are using advertising as a monetization model in those respective markets, or specifically in those markets, you can expect actually higher performance in terms of click-through rates, because performance of mobile advertising in certain markets differs. People are more tempted, more used, more open to relate and connect and try mobile ads as, for example, in other markets. So that would be an appropriate way to go forward. But other concerns in terms of security or misuse, other than piracy, basically, it shouldn't be a big one, at least not to my knowledge at the moment.
And what's in your mind's eye? What is the number one way to, at least if nothing else, as you mentioned earlier, to make sure that you're aware, with the tracking tool and everything that you're doing for the reviews and having your pool of beta testers, your soldiers, if you will, the people who really like the product or at least have legitimately used the product before the bots kicked in.
Yeah.
In the case of piracy, is there anything, and what is a number one thing that you can do to just sort of, if nothing else, be aware? Maybe you can't necessarily do anything right off the bat, but know that there's a possibility that somebody's working. Is it just constantly upkeeping and monitoring, or is there something out there that app developers need to get involved in to make sure that they're watching their backs in regards to piracy?
Embrace it.
Embrace it.
Yeah, it might sound a little bit odd, but those are users at the end of the day, and your internal analytics will show you how many people are using your app without having paid for, or using your in-app purchases, but without being paid for. At the end of the day, they seem to love your product. They use it, they play with it. Try to be smart enough to utilize them. If it's not directly, through revenue, maybe you can reach out to them and have them give you good ratings, or have you reach out to them and give you likes on your Facebook fan page, or let them pay with, some social thing, a local social network they're promoting your app to others. And you maybe, grow your audience at a certain point in time, some way or the other. It pays off when you consider an alternative way to monetize them. Just, there is no way to fight off piracy at large scale. It will always be around, because there are people who will never pay for your product. Even though they like it very much, you will never win them over. You will never convert them in direct paying user. So maybe, you have an audience which never paid, even though you expected it. But at the end of the day, someone comes around and say, hey, I want to reach out to them, a big brand, want to run an email campaign. And you can say, yeah, at least I have the email, addresses of those users, or I have them engaged on my social network. Pay me. So, that's all I can say. Rather focus on those who are paying, build your product accordingly, have a great product for those who are willing to pay, have opportunities to let them pay. And the amount of people, who came to your product via piracy, well, don't try to fight them off. They will always be around. So embrace them.
Stefan, I'm just realizing here, not only do we have you down here as a mobile app marketing expert, also life coach, because I think there's a lot of that can go into play in your overall life. Just embrace it. Like my wife having a discussion with me about my 7-year-old daughter, saying, you have to embrace the fact that boys are going to start to be a part of her life, that she's going to like boys. And, I'm going, why can't we raise her to be a lesbian or something so I don't have to worry about those boys being an issue? It's just embrace it. I see what you're saying here, Stefan.
Life coach sounds funny, but let's see how this will turn out in the future.
Listen, if nothing else, if this whole mobile marketing thing fails, you've got life coach right there ready to go.
Right.
Okay. Now here's what I want to do. I want to wrap up the App and Top mobile app marketing podcast here, Stefan, with I want you to give me 3 things, and possibly they are and include any of these things to do, things to avoid, how to prepare. But give me 3 things that any app developer needs to do. It needs to be on their to-do list in front of them before going to an alternative app store.
Plan ahead in terms of the localization factor, which plays a vital role in order to be successful in those stores. So have your resources, your timing in sync with your launch strategy for those stores. So that's key. Localization and the planning of it. Don't underestimate time to market. Setting up accounts, updating and getting reviewed and approved in certain stores obviously adds time to your launch strategy. So if you have a communication and launch strategy which heads toward one particular day, Make sure that you understand and know the rules in those stores to have, and synchron and launch, which goes in sync, or you have to go step by step and add another store at a later stage, and then the other one and the other one.
Right.
So that's probably something. Make yourself familiar with all the regulations and specifics of those stores. And at the end of the day, don't underestimate the complexity of getting an aggregated report from all those stores you're distributing at. So not only the time which might be required to go through the stores to get the stats out, but also in terms of the metrics they're using, the comparability at the end when you compare each store against each other. Make sure that you have a common set of numbers available and data available, which makes sense to decide to move on, to accelerate in a certain store, to put your resources in one in particular. So those are the things mainly which come to my mind when talking about what you need to do. What is your homework before going forward and enter those markets? And as I said before, tools like Codango could be a valuable source in order to reduce this complexity, save time, and give you also an understanding what these stores look like and how they work.
Stefan, I lied to you. This is the last question I've got for you because it just hit me as we were talking here. I promise you this will be the last question. I'll let you get back to your day. But what's the one tip that you've got for any of these app developers? The best way to become noticed in an alternative app store? What's the best way to become noticed?
Have a great product. Have a great product. It works the same way as in all the other stores. Have a great product. Make sure you give your users the opportunity to talk about your product. So the social layer, the integration of social networks, in some of the cases social local networks, is becoming more and more important to use a certain viral factor, because mainly everyone's talking these days about freemium and offering freemium models to your users. So make sure that you add this specific integration of social networks and social tools and viral tools to your app, and then focus and prioritize. Don't go everywhere at the same time. Really focus to figure out, get an early understanding and a good set of data. Who are your users? Where they're coming from? What they are looking for? And cater to those local needs. I think that's the best way to get attention, awareness in markets, and that includes those stores too.
Stefan, thank you so much. So much great information there. If you've got any questions, you want to reach out to Stefan Bielau, please hit him up on Twitter at Stefan, Stefan Bielau, Bielau, or check out Dynamo Partners. Stefan, thank you so much for your time, sir. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Stefan. Thank you very much. And this has been the App and Top Mobile App Marketing Podcast. Make sure you stop by the Facebook page at facebook.com/appintop. That's facebook.com/appintop. Also on Twitter, appintop_com. And lastly, our daily blog, appintop.com. You can find all this great information and much, much more every single day. Until next time, I'm Mike Bauer. See ya. The App and Top Mobile App Marketing Podcast is produced by
appintop.com.